Hello there, everybody. What Culture Wrestling's Adam Cleary here, and somehow, it has been over a week since WrestleMania. Not really sure how, to tell you the truth. Every time I close my eyes, I'm still somehow in that 8,000 person deep queue for the Ubers and the freezing cold wind and the pouring rain. An interesting story, we waited over half an hour for our first Uber driver, who then rang us and said, yeah, I'm only coming if I can turn the fare on from Manhattan before I drive all the way back to New Jersey, thus trying to charge us over $400. And when we said, hell no, there's no way you're doing that, Prit Pal, he cancelled the fare on us. So yeah, thanks for that, Prit Pal. I hope your hamster dies. Anyway, traumatic stories from New Jersey that I will no doubt recount to my therapist at some point. There have already been other stories emerging that the ending we got to WrestleMania was not what Becky, Ronda, Charlotte, or even WWE themselves had intended to show us. And I'm not even talking about the alleged botch here, where Ronnie goes for the whole Piper's Pit thing, and then Becky kind of rolls her up in a couple of knots and goes for a crucifix, and the referee somehow misses a stray shoulder and counts the three. Anyway, just for the record, I was there, as I've pointed out about a million times by now. It was weird. It was really weird that I don't think anybody realized that the count had sort of happened. The referee made a noise when he went to the mat, so we thought that was the one. So then when it got to the two, it wasn't. And there was this weird gap between the three and the bell when everyone was just like, actually, I'll just quickly warn you right now that this video is essentially me just going on about Becky Lynch and Charlotte and Ronda for however long it says down the bottom of there. So if that is not your bag, then this is your chance to get out conscience clear and guilt-free. By watching from here, you forfeit your right to go, was that just him talking about Becky and Ronda and Charlotte for however long? Because yes, it was that, and I told you in advance. Anyway, though, what the company actually wanted to show us at the culmination of that main event was not what we got. Because if you remember, if you watched it or if you were there, it was very, 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 very long. So long, in fact, that it actually overran its running time, if you can believe such a thing. Writing in this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, Big Banter Uncle Dave Meltzer said that WWE actually wanted to skip Becky's big celebration moment in favor of her having a confrontation with Charlotte, with them bringing up some issues between the two. He says, and I've got it all right here, that the idea that the show would end with Lynch and Charlotte Flair having an issue, since Flair lost her title to Lynch without being pinned, did not transpire. Lynch won, and they ended the show and got out of there because it was so late. And yes, I can confirm it was so late. So just to reiterate there, WWE did not plan to give us this smiles on faces, everybody happy fanfare a la Daniel Bryan that we got at the culmination of that main event. And we only got that because they made such a colossal arse of trying to pace the whole thing. But that being said though, and this is the video now shaping finally into the thing I want it to be, even that, them having a set to, a push and shove match, issues between the two, would not have made the night as perfect as it could have been. Because, if you remember, that exact dynamic is what we were supposed to be trying to get away from. By the sounds of it, what WWE wanted to do here is actually counterproductive to the entire story they're trying to tell. They want Charlotte to get back into Becky's spotlight, and that's supposed to be her moment, what she's been battling for the last 6 months. She's overcome her former friend and greatest rival, as well as the biggest name in the entire division on the biggest possible stage that she could do that. So having Charlotte elbow her way back into that affair is precisely what started this in the first place, and not even in a nice circular poetic way. If you have Charlotte elbow her way back into that moment, then what has Becky achieved over the last few months? What has she been battling time and time again and overcoming odds after odds after odds to actually achieve? What was the point in any of this if it's the same thing still happening? But you do need something though. You can't have that fanfare like Bryan had, because he'd just beaten the Authority. There was no more story to tell there. He'd beaten Batista and he was only part-time, and there was no real story with Orton other than the fact he'd taken his belt. It was all done. It was all nicely wrapped up. You can have the celebratory moment because that is the end of the line. With Becky, it's very different. All right, let's just get this all out on the table and examine the moving parts. You need to have more between Becky and Charlotte, but just not quite yet. And you need to have more between Becky and Ronda, but again, she's just pinned her, so not quite yet. So how do you strike that balance? How do you keep the immediacy and the occasion and the relevance, but at the same time, let it all simmer down a bit? Well, my friends, this will not surprise you to know I have a really good idea. Okay, so quickly, just the match, you do whatever you want in that. The match was fine by me. I've since watched it back with the benefit of not having sat through 7 hours of wrestling before it comes on, and the match is really good. It's fine. Don't change a thing. Even the finish is absolutely fine. Have them toss Charlotte into the table and do the whole Piper's Pit crucifix thing, but maybe, I don't know, practice it a few more times so it just goes a little bit more smoothly. But whatever, I'm splitting hairs. The match is fine. That plays out exactly as you want it to. Then, at the bell, have Ronda slip out off camera and leave. Meanwhile, after you've done the whole coronation thing and the new women's champion title across the screen, have a few shots of Charlotte slowly starting to get back to her feet. Keep cutting to Becky in the ring, the focus has to be on her, but every now and then it's a little look at Charlotte slowly picking herself up, realizing she has lost, and eventually get to that shot of her walking away in the foreground with Becky celebrating in the background. And here's the real twist on the whole story, because once you've done that bit, you need to make it look like everything is just not quite right with Becky. She's looking at the belts and she's not as happy as she should be. That initial euphoria has died down, and now we can see there's something starting to race through her head. She's looking at the belts, she's looking at Charlotte, she's looking at the belts, she's looking at the crowd, she's looking at the belts, looking at Charlotte, looking at Amar, looking at the belts, looking at Charlotte, looking at herself. She then rolls out of the ring, blocks Charlotte's exit up the ramp, and gets in her face. She starts giving it all that, reminds her that she always said she was the better woman, that she's proved she's the better woman, that Charlotte gets handed these things and Becky earns these things. That's the difference between that. Just do the whole thing, let it all pour out, the months of storytelling, all the emotion, let her get all that out in front of Charlotte, who just stands there looking broken. Then, and this is the bit, she throws the SmackDown Women's Championship at Charlotte, just throws it at her feet. She doesn't want it. And Charlotte's just looking at her like, what the hell is this? And Becky gets up to her face again, and the cameras catch her saying this. She says, I didn't beat you tonight, and when I want your title, I'll pin you for it. Boom, mic drop. Except, obviously, she doesn't have a mic. You get what I mean. Becky then turns her back on Charlotte, walks up that exorbitantly long, I think that's a word, WrestleMania ramp, gets to the top, holds her belt above her head again, and Charlotte is still just stood there at ringside, looking at the belt, not knowing what to do with herself. This is hands down the most baller move anyone has ever done at the end of a WWE Championship match, never mind in the main event of WrestleMania, and it actually fits with that character you've been trying to build for the last 6 months. Having her standing there going, where's me ma, is lovely, yes, but it's not the badass Stone Cold Steve Austin reborn thing that we've been trying to get at. Her not even wanting Charlotte's title because she didn't fight Charlotte for her title is mwah, chef kiss. So what does that leave you with? Well, she's the first person to properly beat Ronda, so you can reignite that as and when she comes back from her impregnation vacation, whatever hashtag she put on it on Instagram. Like, just nobody cares when you're having sex, Ronda. Nobody. But what they've got between Becky and Charlotte in real life now, not the thing I'm pitching, is that Becky has Charlotte's championship despite not actually beating Charlotte. Now, the way WWE have done it, the onus is now on her to go and approach Becky and be like, you never beat me, I want that back, etc., which makes her a sympathetic character because she is ultimately in the right. Whereas if Becky gives her the title back, you can have Becky approach her and be like, I told you I would come for this when I wanted it, and I want it now, which makes her a bit of a badass. Now, you tell me which of those two suggestions you would personally be more invested in. Except, don't, it's mine, it's the second one. Look, it's just, and not to toot my own cock here or anything, but it's subtle, it's clever, it gives you a reason to keep them apart for the foreseeable, it gives you something juicy and dangling hanging over them for when they eventually have to come back together. It just makes a lot more sense, and that way you can actually let SmackDown have a proper women's division rather than stretching Becky across both when they'll obviously be more concerned about Raw. It just works on so many more levels than Yay does. And if WWE really are determined to either unify them or just have them on one person, then give us a summer of those two being champions and defending them against everybody else, and then unify them. It's Survivor Series. Have them challenge each other and demand that the belts go on the line, or do that at SummerSlam. It doesn't really matter. Just not right now, not when you've done such a bad job of elevating the rest of the divisions while Ronda's been around. You now have a chance to let two people carry the flags and do the same thing and bring everybody else up with them and just, So yes, that's how I would do it. That is what I think the closing shot of WrestleMania 35 should have been, and those are all the myriad of reasons why I would have done that. Now, yes, admittedly, I do probably have to go and rebook the whole WrestleMania so that you're not short of time at the end. But oh wait, no, I actually don't. You just give Triple H and Batista normal entrances and about 10 minutes in the ring. There you go, Vince. Saved you half an hour. And I'll tell you why I actually want them to do this. Not just because I think it would be cool or it suits Becky's character. Why I specifically want them to do this. Because they've never, ever actually done that before. They've never had somebody win a championship that they've been going after for a while and then refuse to actually accept it. We asked around the whole office. Nobody could think of anything like that. The nearest thing we could think of is Shane Douglas winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in, I want to say, 1994, and then throwing it to the ground, picking up the ECW Championship and effectively birthing ECW as we would then learn to know and love it. Also, Dolph Ziggler with the US title some while ago. But WWE forgot about that pretty quickly, so we are going to as well. Remember him? Now, some of you are going to hear this idea and then opine the suggestion that they could have used that to segue nicely into that historic photoshopped image of the four horsewomen all with their championships. You bin off what the Iconics accomplished, leave them on Sasha and Bayley and get them all to do that. But no, you have to wait. We haven't earned that yet. You have to wait for the right moment for that. You have to wait for all four women to be in the exact right place, all fairly naturally over, all with their own things going on, all having achieved something on the night before you do that. And just having one of them have a belt thrown at them and the other retain in a regulation match is... Oh, turn on, sorry. Yep. Hello? Ah, yes, that's Chief. He says it ain't it. So, yes, just to rewind to a paragraph I've already started to say, that's how I would do that. That's why I think they should do that. That's how it should look. And that's all the reasons why I would do that. But, as ever, going to open my heart out to you here. I want to know what you think they should have done. Was that perfect? Were you asleep by that point in the show? Anyway, doesn't even matter because life is all futile in the end. Let me know in the comments below. It's all good stuff. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can send me all your lovely ideas on Twitter as well. My thing should be floating around. If not, it's Adam Cleary, C-L-E-R-Y. Thank you very much, ma'am. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Cleary. And that is how WrestleMania 35 should have ended. Goodbye.